Hey guys, this is A Taste of Science, and today we're talking about toxicology.
Greetings, nerd. We welcome your stay. You've got no brains in the zombie buffet. When you go out, you order your Indian filet, which is only one of their real. Which comics are better? Marvel or DC? Do you prefer gaming on console or PC?
Hey guys, so toxicology is exactly what it sounds like. Um, Toxicology is the study of toxic things, chemicals that can kill you. This is actually the first in a number of videos I'm going to do about flavor. I'm not going to do them all in a row. I think that would get very tiresome, very boring, um, because obviously it's cooking science. You want to see actual food, not just flavor. But flavor is important. It's one of the things that makes a big impact on what foods we like, what foods we don't. We decide a lot of what we want to eat based on what does it taste like. Um, so I thought that was important. I also wanted to bring up in an early video the idea of toxicology. Now, toxicology, a lot of it is things we don't particularly need. You're obviously not going to learn a lot about poisons in cooking. However, if you're cooking for yourself or if you're cooking for guests, you don't want to accidentally poison them by giving them something that hasn't been cooked properly. Salmonella in chicken, Bacillus cereus in beef, things that you have to kind of watch out for and make sure that you're cooking properly. So a little bit of knowledge about toxicology and what can harm a person is really important to know. So the first of the taste I wanted to talk about today is bitter. Bitter has a long history in human evolution of killing people off. Um, a lot of plants that taste bitter are poisonous. It's one of the reasons that a lot of bitter foods are acquired tastes. Um, Coffee, for example. A lot of people don't like coffee, or if they do like coffee, they want sugar or milk or something in it, a sweetener to sort of cover it up. That's one of the things we do a lot with bitter foods, is we cover it up with usually sweet, but also with some other mixtures. Cocoa is a great example. We make chocolate using cocoa, but we put a lot of milk in it, we put a lot of sugar in it, so that it doesn't really taste like the bitter cocoa anymore. If you want a better idea of what cocoa itself tastes like, try dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is much stronger, bitter flavor. Other things that have uh, a bitter flavor to them that you may not necessarily think of. Cola nuts, which give part of their flavor to drinks like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, stuff like that. Hops in beer, parsley, rhubarb, dandelion greens, which are actually used a lot in salads. If you know anything about botany, you probably are familiar with the fact that dandelion flowers are poisonous. The leaves are fine to eat, but they are bitter. It's one of those things warning animals and people that dandelions can kill you. Don't eat them, which is why we're not big fans as people of a um, bitter foods. Um, Now, one of the things that's very interesting is that we use that aversion to bitter foods for a lot of other things that we do. For example, there's a synthetic chemical, dentonium. It's very strong bitter flavor. Um, and it's actually added to chemicals a lot of times, especially household cleaning agents, to make it taste bitter because people don't like that taste, like I've said about a million times. Um, but they uh, they do it so that if you accidentally put some in your mouth, you'll taste immediately, ooh, this is nasty, and spit it out, rather than going, oh, this tastes like candy, I'm going to keep eating this. They chose it specifically because they wanted it to be bad. It's sort of like with natural gases in like gas burning fireplaces or in stoves. The gas is actually odorless. They add a scent to it so that if it's leaking, you can smell it and you know there's a problem. One of the things that's very interesting about uh, bitter is that some people can't taste it, and some people are what we call super tasters. They can taste it extra well. One of the I shouldn't say easiest, most common ways to test it is by using a synthetic chemical on like basically litmus paper, but instead of testing whether something is an acid or a base, it tests your ability to taste bitter. Um, the two chemicals most commonly used are PTC, phenethiocarbamide, or PROP, or PROP, which is 6-in-propylfluorouracil. Um, both these chemicals are synthetic. They're safe to taste, at least in small quantities. And you can go online and order a little strip of paper that comes with it on there, and just touch it to your tongue, and you can tell. Do I not taste anything? Is it just a wet piece of paper? You probably have a lower ability to test to tell whether or not something is bitter. About 25% of people have this inability to taste it. Um, on the other hand, you have about 25% that are super tasters, that they taste it and it's unbearable. They're going to pull it out of their mouth immediately. They're going to start gagging, coughing. It's a really strong flavor for them. Any of you who know anything about genetics, or who may remember back to high school biology classes, might recognize this as a Mendelian trait. It has a dominant gene, a recessive gene. If you get two recessive genes, you're going to be in the non-taster section, where you're not going to be able to taste bitter very much at all. However, if you get both of the dominant genes, you're on the super taster side, and you have that vitriolic reaction to tasting something that's bitter. The other 50% have half and half, and they're going to fall in the middle, where they've kind of got, well, I can taste it, but it's not that bad. And it's a very interesting study in Mendelian trait inheritance. So if we sweeten a lot of things that we sweeten coffee, we sweeten hot cocoa, we sweeten cola when we make sodas out of it, we sweeten grapefruit by putting sugar on top of it, how are we supposed to taste something that's actually bitter? To get an example of what bitterness really tastes like, especially since, as I pointed out, a lot of things that are bitter are poisonous. How do we do that? Well, there's actually a really cool trick you can do. All you need is a chocolate bar and some toothpaste. If you've ever brushed your teeth and then gone to have breakfast and drank some orange juice, it's a nasty experience. Why? Well, scientists don't know exactly why we have the reaction we do to that combination of toothpaste and orange juice, but what they do know is that it blocks the sweet receptors in our mouth. When you brush your teeth and then drink orange juice, you're basically experiencing the flavor of orange juice minus all the sucrose and sugars that naturally come in orange juice. And without those, you get a lot of acid, you get a lot of water, there's just a little bit of bitter from the rind, and so you get a very different experience with that. So I have some dark chocolate cranberry fudge here that I made. I'm going to taste that after brushing my teeth, give you guys the horrible, horrible facial expression I'm sure I'll make, and give you guys kind of an example of how you can do that. So give me just a second, guys. So I just brushed my teeth. As you saw, I've got a little piece of fudge here. It might be a little small to have a cranberry in it, but one bitter substance is probably going to be more than enough for me. So the dark chocolate should do it. And let's just go ahead and see. Mmm. It's not sweet at all. It doesn't even really taste like chocolate. It kind of tastes like really bad chalk. I'm gonna spit this out. So to take a quick break from that while my mouth recovers from that experience, I wanted to bring up something that is a common misconception. It used to be taught in schools back when I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have received the same false information. So I just wanted to make a point of pointing out that it's not true. You may remember a chart looks kind of like this, in which they said certain parts of the mouth have, and parts of the tongue, I mean, have different flavor receptors related to it. That's complete hogwash. It's not true. You probably should know that because you've eaten things before. It more than just the tip of the tongue can taste sweetness. More than just the sides of the tongue can taste sour things. Heck, if you've got lemon juice at home, get a little bit of lemon juice on the end of your finger, and just touch the end of your tongue. You can taste it. You can taste that it has sourness to it, and you don't have to get it back to the back of the mouth like the chart says you should. Um, it's silly. I don't know where that preconception came from, but I just wanted to sort of disband that as quick as I could. There is no sections of the mouth or anything like that. The whole tongue can taste all flavors. It's not just one area. So I just figured I'd throw that out there. Now, the other topic I wanted to talk about was salty foods. Um, and I know a lot of people out there are, are thinking, well, salty foods are something that don't really have the same thing as bitter foods, where a lot of bitter things are poisonous. Salts are salts. They're um, we use basically one kind in cooking. We use, for the most part, um, sodium chloride, NaCl, um, but um, it can cause health concerns, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up, because a lot of people don't fully understand why it causes health concerns. So the first thing that a lot of people know about what salt can do to your body is that it causes you to retain water. Why? Salt makes us thirsty. And when we drink water, and especially when we have salt in our body and in our cells that can then absorb that water, it causes those cells to puff up and makes us a little bigger. We hold on to water a little bit better. And so that added water weight is in us when we have things that are salty foods. Um, but why are we thirsty? What is causing us to be thirsty? Well, the kidneys actually run on a very delicate system and delicate balance of salt and well, not salt, sodium, the Na of NaCl, and potassium, which of course your most common source of that is something like a banana. Um, that balance though is what helps the kidneys pass chemicals through them to sort out what's basically toxic waste in the body and get it out of your body as fast as possible, run through the kidneys, through the bladder, and so on. Um, when you have a lot of salt, you can throw that balance off, and your kidneys aren't going to work as effectively as they could. So you drink a lot of water when you have salty foods in order to store that salt away and disseminate it out to the body at a slower rate. This is basically the body self-medicating for sodium poisoning, is really what it is. So then it begs the question, where do we get our more advanced problems from? For example, well, one of the day-to-day issues might be, a little extra weight that you carry from salt. You can also have things like strokes, high blood pressure. You can get kidney failure from a high sodium diet. Why is that? Well, it does all come back to the kidneys. When you have all that extra water in you, all your blood vessels dilate a little bit. There's more fluid flowing through them, and the kidneys can't keep up with that. Is really the big problem. It puts extra strain on the kidneys. They can begin to shut down. That extra fluid in the blood vessels is a big part of the reason that you have that increased blood pressure, because there's literally more fluid in the system for it to deal with. Um, the uh, the strokes are again an issue of that. If you've got all these toxins that your kidneys aren't able to filter out because they're not working as well and they're flowing up to your brain, but also the increased cranial pressure from having more fluid in there. It can tear up capillaries, it can tear up arteries, and has more of an issue in your health when it starts to become a problem over time. So one of the things that uh, that a lot of people don't know that can help with this is how much salt should you have? I mean, obviously you need some salt. You need to get that sodium in your body to get the kidneys working properly. If you had no sodium at all, you're going to have a bit of an issue metabolizing all the toxins, getting them flushed out of your body, and that's just as bad as if you're having trouble doing it because you've got too much fluid and too much blood pressure and you're not able to get things through because of that. So, what's the proper amount? Well, most uh, most American societies today recommend for people over about 50 that they have a gram and a half as sort of their daily allotment. People under that age do about a little bit more than 2 grams. We're though in an American system, so what's a gram of salt look like? A lot of people don't know that. I'm not even sure I would know what an ounce of salt looks like because that's just not an amount we're used to visualizing. So I actually measured out what roughly 2 grams of salt looks like, and it's not a lot. That is 2 grams of salt. Just a teeny tiny little bit down here. Um, that's probably less than you put on mixed vegetables when you have them at the table and you put some salt and pepper on them. It's probably Actually, it's probably about the amount that you would put on that. But think about all the salt that's already in food, all the salt that's in French fries when you go to a restaurant, or that's just in various things because we use salt a lot, much like we use sugar to cover up bitter foods. We use salt to bring out other flavors. So if you have something that's kind of sweet, but you don't want to add sugar to it, but you want to accentuate that sweetness, you can add just a teensy bit of salt. Not enough that you're going to taste it, not enough that it's going to make the dish salty, but it helps bring out that sweet flavor. And you can do it with sour as well. Just a teensy bit of salt. Problem is, if you do that to everything throughout the day, you can run through this much salt really, really fast. So it's one of those things where you really need to try to keep that down, and it's a health concern for later on in life. It can actually expand your life expectancy if you eat a lot of low sodium foods. Come to think of it, I have a friend that he's 24, 23 now, and the way he eats salt, oh goodness, is he in trouble for later in his life? Um, there's just some things that are concerns about two flavors that are a little bit less commonly recognized. We focus a lot more, especially in American society, on sweet foods, on sour foods. Those are the flavors that we put into candy. It's the flavors that we like. We'll talk about those later and why we like them. Um, but it's something which we need to put a little bit more focus on. Right. Well, that's going to be all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys found it at least a little interesting. We'll talk more about flavor in the future, however, not next time. I've got something I think is particularly fun for the next video. So I hope you guys are all looking forward to that. For now, I hope you guys tune in next time, and please remember, the kitchen is a laboratory.